Hello, welcome everybody to the Solutions podcast and vlog. And this month I am with Carrie Cort from Sussex Green Living. So, hello, Carrie.
Hi, Nicola. Thanks very much for inviting me today.
Well, it's lovely to interview you because we actually work together quite a lot. And this is the first time that we have done an interview. So, maybe you can just tell us how it all started for you. How did you first get involved with the line of work that you're currently in?
Yeah, back in about 2011, I had a 4-year-old son at that point, and I've always been an environmentalist, but I was getting more and more aware about the climate crisis and more depressed about the future that I'd brought this child into and the world I'd brought him into. And I watched a couple of films. I went to see and listen to a friend, Nicola, speak about the climate and about the environment, about the solutions, more to the point. And I suddenly thought, well, actually, what's the point in being depressed? Just get on and do something, Carrie. Go to your grave knowing you've done everything in your power to create change.
Yay! Well, that makes me feel good, when I know that
Yeah.
I stand up there and I give a talk and I throw out a load of seeds, and I feel like many fall on barren land, and the people might not have heard what I said, but then there's the odd person like yourself that's just ready to hear something new, to see that we need a different paradigm. And rather than that focusing on the problems, which so many people, we're very good at talking about all the problems. There's not enough people that focusing on the solution. So that's why I'm so grateful for what you're doing with Sussex Green Living. So how did Sussex Green Living start then? What were the first steps that you took?
At the time, yeah, I had a 4-year-old son. I was the director of a video communications company, and didn't have a lot of time. It was my night job to start with, but I set up the website for Sussex Green Living. I set up social media on Twitter and Facebook. And then I actually trained as a West Sussex County Council waste prevention advisor. Some training came up, the timing was right. So yeah, in the early days, a lot of our work was focused on the 3 R's or the 8 R's as I talk about them now. So yeah, so for a couple of years, I was actually doing it as my night job, and then I sold my shares in the family business and went full time at the beginning of 2015.
So we better just recap on, in case there is anybody that's listening that don't know what the R's are. So the original three R's were,
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
and now,
Oh, refuse, reduce, refill, repair, remake, recreate. Yeah, recycle's right at the very bottom.
yeah. And now I'm talking about rethinking and regenerating and rewilding. And so we keep, adding these R words on to what we need to be doing. So it started off waste prevention. It's like that's the first step of the ladder. If we can get people recycling, get them interested. And you started to work with Terracycle and set up waste collection points in different villages. So how many villages did you end up working with?
Yeah, so in the early days, it was me and my family, and one drop-off location, and then two, and then three. And then people started contacting me and saying, Carrie, love what you're doing with Terracycle recycling. Um, we really want to help. What can we do? So then over time, we actually set up village drop-off locations. We now have got 22 villages and towns that have got public drop-off locations. And then we've got loads of other churches, schools, companies that collect for us but aren't on our website because they're not public drop-offs. So yeah. It's been a journey, but yeah, it's
And
great. So
off the top of your head, have you got any numbers on how much you've diverted out of landfill?
oh my, Nicola, I'm really not a numbers person. Hey, I've got them all captured because now we're a charity. We became a charity in 2020. Yeah, busy applying for grants so that we can employ some other people to help me, to support me. So yeah, we do have all the metrics, but I can't. The trouble is actually, I mean, Terracycle recycling in itself doesn't, it isn't very impressive from a metrics point of view. It's hard to recycle, flexible plastics, and actually the carbon saving from that activity is not really very impressive. But as you know, in 2017, we set up the first repair cafe in West Sussex. And since then, we've mentored about 40. We've now got 20 repair cafes within West Sussex. We just promote them. We don't run them. We just run the Horsham Repair Cafe. So there's 20 within West Sussex, and there's 9 within Horsham District, which is where we're actually based. And actually, the carbon savings from repairing items rather than replacing them with something that's come from China with a huge carbon footprint, that is really where there's a massive win. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the issue we have with recycling is, it can perpetuate consumerism because people can think, oh, well, I can eat as many pots of hummus as I want because I'll put it in the right colored bin and I'm recycling it, so that's okay. And so all the time that we are recycling, we just think that, well, I'm doing my bit. And then it stops there. And if you ask somebody, oh, what are you doing for the environment? Oh, I'm doing my recycling. Well, as you said, that's not really going to cut the biscuit. That's not going to make the difference. Doing the recycling, yes, it's the right thing to do. But last year I met a young Japanese girl, and I was amazed when she said that I didn't know that your country was a third world country. And I said, well, why are you saying that? And she said, well, there's so much rubbish everywhere, and people don't even know how to recycle. In Japan, they wouldn't even put a wine bottle in the recycling without peeling off the label and putting that into paper, taking the lid off and putting that into metal, and then putting it into glass. And I think it's over 20 different recyclings that households separate. But in South Korea and in Japan, it is so, that's what you do. It's culturally, everybody separates. And then when it's really well separated, it stays at a really high value.
Yeah.
But what we do is we chuck it all in one, and yes, it gets separated at a plant to a point, but it's really devalued because it's dirty. So we've got a long way to go in England with our recycling. But this idea of,
Yeah.
yes, we recycle what we can, and through Terracycle, all this stuff which can be recycled, like pens and makeup tubes and all this stuff, which they won't take it from your council, but you can take it and return it so that it can be turned into something else. But I think that the real main point is it's luring people in to
Exactly.
get them on the path.
It's
And
the sprat to catch the mackerel. It's the first thing that anyone, when they start becoming worried about the environment, they think, oh, I must really sort out my recycling. So it gets people on the journey. And that's exactly why we and other climate action groups do embrace and recycling. So all of our volunteers, we've got about 120 volunteers in total as a charity. Many of those are on the waste prevention and recycling side of things. Yeah, and they're very focused on not just Terracycle, because that really isn't going to do it. In fact, it probably there's more carbon created from the recycling of Terracycle than there is saved, shockingly. But for us, actually, it's the education. So, we all of our volunteers really educate people about what they can put in their council bin, what they can take to the supermarket. But most important is actually what we can do to avoid it in the very beginning. So making better choices, refilling, zero waste, yeah, lighter, no packaging, local, all of those things is really where the education's, yeah, targeted.
which is really just the full cycle, isn't it? It's bringing back that, remembering that it was like that, what, 50, 75 years ago, our grandparents. The whole kind of influx of plastic and everything being wrapped is really so modern in the history of humanity. And really, that's thanks to the good old fossil fuel companies, which have got this wonderful product that they don't want to give it up.
Yeah.
And so we know that reusing is so much better than, and I saw a great, I can't remember what the name, I should remember the name of the coffee shop, which got so upset by the amount of reusable that people just want to take away coffee. And oh, it's okay because it's in a card and it's got a biodegradable lid. But imagine the energy that it takes to still make, you know, that tree turned into a cup, and the bioplastic, which has often come from sugarcane and potato starch, which is a food crop. And so we're taking food crops to turn it into a bioplastic, huge amount of energy to make that lid, which is
Mm.
only going to be used once and then
Yeah.
thrown away. So it's still single use, even if it's eco. But what this cafe did was that they filled the whole floor of the little cafe with disposable cups.
Oh, hilarious.
And
Fantastic.
if you wanted to come and get a coffee, if you had your own cup, you were allowed to go through the back door and get your cup filled. If you didn't and you just wanted a takeaway coffee, you had to walk the walk of shame and
Mm.
walk across
Excellent. Yeah.
all of these single use coffee
Yeah.
cups. And it kind of went viral. They had lots of people talking about it. So, it's these really just stopping and making people think, because yeah, we
Yeah.
can, oh well, okay, it's still, it's natural, it's not plastic, but we've got to think of what it takes in the beginning to actually make these products before it's recycled, and then this huge journey that products go on to be recycled. So like we say,
Yeah.
hey, so moving on from recycling, but as we know, it's the first step, repairing, keeping stuff out of landfill. And then da da da, we had the idea of the Inspiration Eco Station.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us more.
Crazy. Well, I when Sussex Green Living had just formed as a charity in 2020. Obviously, we were in the midst of COVID, and you and I were, like others, and some of our other environmental education partners, were thinking, well, how the hell are we going to get back out into the community, into schools? And so, yeah, we sort of brainstormed ideas. And then I went to, I think, my first trustee meeting. And I said to them, look, you're going to think I'm really crazy. What have you signed up to as trustees? But um, I want to buy an electric milk float, an old electric milk float, and make it into a mobile exhibition stand and classroom, so that we can use it when we go back out after COVID, or whenever we can get back out there. And yeah, much to my relief, they said, "Yeah, love it. Go for it. You're not crazy. Go for it." So, thanks to trustees' support. Otherwise, I'm not sure, Nicola, whether I would have gone with it. Had the confidence. But yeah, the eco station now we take out, don't we, to schools and public events. It's got music on the roof. It's got lovely, yeah, colourful displays. Yeah, it's really fun, isn't it? People love it when they get stuck behind me as well.
Going at 5 miles an hour. No, it's not slow, but I love its little face.
Oh, it's glorious.
It's
Yeah.
the little old milk float when it's got the earth with a
Yeah.
pair of shades on and saying, make earth cool again. And that's what we want,
Mm.
ultimately, to remind people we are getting hotter and we need to cool the earth. And all of these activities, that they need to be fun, because it's not inspiring. And bless all the charities that have been working in the environmental sphere for a long time, banging this drum for a long time. And we've just not been moving the dial. So it takes everything, it takes direct action, it takes people going on the
Yeah.
streets, but it also takes the real, day-to-day living, because it's all very well going and standing in a protest, but
Mm.
if you go home and you carry on in the same. And so also what's been really good at the repair cafes is encouraging people to change their energy so that they have renewable energy, and
Yeah.
So that kind of initiative as well has been really great to see that you're doing. So tell us a little bit more when you have the repair cafe, the hub, what else do you have on that day?
Yeah, so well, initially it was called the Horsham Repair Cafe, but it was always more, as you say, we always offered energy advice, energy switching to clean energy, which was so exciting. It was wonderful, shifting people from fossil fuel to clean energy. We always had a bottle refill service for household cleaning products and personal hygiene. And prior to COVID, we also did a loose, dry, and organic food refill service. So lots and recycling. So it was always more than a repair cafe. But post COVID, in 2021, we relaunched the repair cafe, and we relaunched it with what's on the in the tin sort of a name. We called it the Sussex Green Hub. It's at bigger premises, and we have the repairs. We have I call it as a less waste shop, right? So it's environmentally friendly, less impactful, negatively impactful, and products with no packaging, less packaging, or refilled. We have a big recycling display, educational stand. People can bring a bag of items that they don't know whether they can recycle or not, and they get advice from they're called the Wombles, the recycling volunteers. We also have Transition Horsham who are present, mainly focusing on allotments, a community allotment, but also they've actually managed to, using the Sussex Green Hub as a base, set up an energy group, which is very exciting. And we host Horsham Eco Churches and Horsham Community Fridge. So it is what I would call a community climate hub or a community resilience centre. It pops up once a month, last Saturday of every month. Been trying to get money to put it on the high street, but that requires a lease, overhead, another salary to help us to run it. So we're struggling with getting that sort of funding at the moment. But yeah, it's a fantastic. It's a magical community. Everyone always feels re-empowered, re-energized, re-motivated, albeit exhausted at the end of that event. But we all support each other on this journey.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a service to the community and hopefully an inspiration to other areas that want to create hubs and do something similar in their areas because what nature's really good at is replication.
Yeah.
And so rather than us reinventing the wheel, it's about, okay, yeah, this looks a really good idea. Could we do this? How can we replicate that where we live? And so, there's loads of great resources on Sussex Green Living's website. But so the other side, apart from the hub, is education. I know you go into a lot of schools, and sometimes I come with you.
Indeed.
And so our road show, which do you want to talk a bit about the road show?
Yeah, so yeah, in 2021, we had over that winter and we'd conjured up the Bright New Future Roadshow, as we called it then. So it's basically an outdoor environmental education festival, really. So the float is used as the base for one lesson, and then Nicola is usually in the Forest School area. So whenever possible, we do it outside. So yeah, Nicola's the second area, and then we've got a wonderful partner called Clive, who has converted a 7-ton lorry into a mobile woodland theatre lorry. And he focuses on the community that's under our feet, the community that's in the soil, the mycelium and the life and biochar. He's an inspiration too. And we've got other partners that we pull in, don't we? Like Keith, with the Wheel of Eco Fortune. I don't know, you should talk about what you do.
Well, just going back to Clive, obviously his 7-ton van is running on biodiesel,
Of course,
and
yeah.
the whole side of it is painted up with life on Earth.
Yeah.
And I love hearing in the distance the word that he teaches the children, mycelium, and biodiversity. And so you hear all these little kids, learning these new words, and the
Yeah.
importance of what's all around us and beneath us. And this great friend, say Keith from Moving Sounds, came up with the idea of the Wheel of Fortune. And what we did was, how do we make it fun and interactive? Oh, here Carrie has one.
This is a version of.
Yeah, this has been adapted to an animal one. So
Yeah.
what we will do is, as it is spun, there'll be different areas. So there'll be energy, there'll be problems, solutions, fashion. So each segment has a different area. And the kids are so excited to come up and spin the wheel. And so creating that interaction, they spin it depending on what it lands on. And of course, there is win, which is a seed. And this great excitement of winning and participating in them spinning it. And then that way, depending on what it lands on, they get a bit of education. And wherever possible, when Keith's there, he's a great musician and he has made brilliant songs to do with a lot of those elements. So that way of, how do we make this kind of information fun and educational? So that's really been the bright futures. And then finally, you're moving into working with businesses. So
Oh, yes.
how's that going?
Oh, Lord. Yeah, we decided that actually it was, we work with communities, whether it's a college or a school or village communities with the environmental groups and so on. And we sort of suddenly realized that actually we're surrounded by these communities, which are businesses in themselves, captive audience. And also that's one way they can do some fundraising for us. So yeah, it's going really, really well. We were really lucky. There was a local marketing agency who pro bono offered to develop a campaign for us. And it was around the time we wanted to actually start working with businesses. So they helped us to develop our Green Business Network. And a project that businesses could easily get involved in, which is our pollination education station, which are massive, great pollinator homes like bug hotels with herb beds, pollinator friendly herb beds that companies could sponsor. And we're whacking them all over the place in churches, outside businesses, in schools, green spaces, and companies are sponsoring them. So that's the easy entry point. But yes, we've also been doing some lunch and learns, corporate volunteering, organising community action days, and they've been fundraising for us. So it's been a steep learning curve since March. It's taken a lot of my time, but thanks to PMW Marketing for helping us, give us a massive leg up. It's gone really, really well. And we have interestingly been found by the house building industry. So we have worked with other businesses, but yeah, big time we've been found by the house building industry. So yeah, now we're starting to work with them and be their critical friends.
So we
Uh,
won't name any names at this point
no names, no
about
names
any of
policy.
these house building companies that are wanting to have a little green shine to their edge. And so
Yeah,
we're hoping that, yes, it's like the recycling. The first step is have a bug hotel. The second step is, what else can you do and what else can you commit to
yeah,
doing with the bigger picture? So it's really, isn't it? It's stepping stones with saying,
yeah,
okay, we get a foot in the door, and then how can we really do more education? And so,
yeah.
what's your final thoughts, Carrie? What's your vision for next year? Any
Oh.
ideas? What would you like to achieve that you haven't already done?
Well, yeah, we have just had a meeting this last week with nine, basically they're change makers, community connectors within nine town stroke villages. And we wanted to explore working collaboratively with them. We are called Sussex Green Living, and we do work in East and West Sussex, but predominantly because of the milk float, because it's got a very limited range. And during COVID, our volunteer numbers really increased, but with volunteers in Horsham District. So actually, we want to spread back out again and have much more activity and influence in a wider geographical area, East and West Sussex. So we had a meeting with change makers from 9 towns, villages about collaborating on a mobile library of things. Got a lot of work to do, but a library
Can
of
you give us
things
an
is
example? What is a library of things?
yeah, a library of things. Generally, they're static, so they might be in a shopping centre or in a community hub or in a village hall, maybe. But it's irregularly used household items, usually electrical items. For example, carpet cleaners, dehumidifiers, electric sanders, electric drills. Very often, they're rarely used. They're put in a drawer and maybe only used when someone moves house to do the DIY. And so a library of things is basically where those sort of tools are available, like a book library, and people can just hire them when they need them rather than have them sitting in a drawer. So it saves all this purchasing of household electrical items in particular that have been made probably in China, traveled 10,000 miles using fossil fuel, put in a drawer and rarely used. So, at the moment, there's only two mobile library of things. There's one in Devon, there's one in Wales, and we want to set up one for the southeast.
Yay.
And then actually, help villages to set up their own static library of things. So we'll visit like probably 8 towns in any one week, repeat the same logistics, the same route every week. But then I hope, like you spoke about, rippling out the best ideas. I hope that in those some of those towns, we'll help them to set up their own static library. Then we'll drop that town, move on to another town, and pick up another town, and ripple out like like what's happened. That's not very good English, is it? With repair cafes. So,
Yeah.
2017, it was just Horsham Repair Cafe. Now there are 20 in West Sussex.
Yeah.
So I want to do the same with the mobile library things.
It is, it's that sharing, which is also what didn't mention as well, that it was Carrie and
Yeah.
myself one day. We were sitting having a coffee. What do we do next? And the idea of creating an alliance to bring together, because over the years, I've given a lot of talks to a lot of little groups and they never seem to grow. It was always the same group of people and feeling quite isolated in a town, a handful of people. So we're like, well, what about if we brought all those little groups together to make them feel part of a bigger whole? And from that, the Southeast Climate Alliance was born. And there are now 130 organizations involved. And some of them are the big ones like Friends of the Earth and the Wildlife Trust, CPRE, Greenpeace, and then the smaller transition town groups, the little climate groups, the eco church groups. So it's open to environmental, social, and faith based organizations working on climate and ecological solutions and sharing information. So that would be wonderful. We've got the Southeast Alliance and Sussex Green Living. Well, wouldn't it be great if there was a Kent Green Living,
Yeah.
a Hampshire Green Living, a Southwest Alliance? And no, so coming together and creating like those cells that join together and expand themselves to have greater reach. And really, that's so much of what you've been doing. So I just want to say thank you so much, Carrie, for all the work that you do.
You so much, Nicola, for all the work you do and all the people you inspire along the way. You don't know the impact that you're having. We don't know half the time, but we can only assume that, we're empowering and inspiring people to take action, and you certainly are. So thank you.
Thank you for thanking me. And may whoever listens to this be inspired too. If you're not doing anything in your own community, then get out there and do something, which is what the world is waiting for. It's our hands. We do enough thinking about it and we can be clicktivists and sign all the petitions, but actually, we need you to be physically embodied out there taking action. So, thank you so much for your time and look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.